A year ago this week, a shooting in Old Town, Arvada, northwest of Denver. During a busy lunch hour, a gunman killed an Arvada police officer. Another man, Johnny Hurley, saw what was happening and killed the shooter. Then police killed Hurley, mistaking him for the gunman. CPR's Allison Sherry reports Hurley's family is suing Arvada. And a warning, the beginning of this story includes the sound of gunshots.
The ample surveillance footage showing what Johnny Hurley actually did on June 21st, 2021 is kind of like something you'd see in a movie. A bad guy with a gun kills a police officer in broad summer daylight. Bystanders flee for cover.
Jeffcom 911, what's the address of your emergency?
Shots fired.
Shots fired, what's the address, please?
It's in Old Town, Arvada.
Okay, how many people have been shot?
2, 3.
Are you safe?
No.
Oh, can you
The bad guy had a history of encounters with law enforcement. He then shot out police car windows. That was when Hurley, carrying a legal concealed weapon, ran across the block gripping his gun. He fired 6 rounds and took down the bad guy. He then moves to disarm the AR-15 so the gunman couldn't hurt anyone else.
I have to admit, it's kind of exciting to see the way he handled himself.
Kathleen Boleyn is Johnny Hurley's mother.
The way he took all the training and practice that he's had and did the right thing.
There were 3 officers watching the gunman from a substation nearby. Investigators say those officers didn't know one of their own had been killed and were worried they didn't have the right tactical gear to survive an automatic rifle. From a window, they watched Hurley. Then one of the officers shot him from behind, killing him. Jefferson County District Attorney Alexis King decided not to charge the officer who killed Hurley.
The officers that day saw a mass shooter, heard many rounds of gunfire in broad daylight in the heart of Old Town, Arvada. The officer's decision to shoot John Hurley was legally justified despite his heroic actions that day.
Since that day, Boleyn has had to...
They gave Hurley no commands, no verbal warnings. They ran up behind him and shot him in the back. And the pathetic DA for Jefferson County, King, lets the cop walk and get away with this. That cop murdered him. Doesn't matter, oh, I was confused, I didn't know. Yeah, that's why you give verbal commands and you don't just shoot first, ask questions later. That's why Arvada Police Department is full of tyrants, pigs, and bad cops.
Had to weather a full year without her son. The birthday he didn't celebrate. The gaping hole at Christmas. Mother's Day.
When you were having fun with Johnny, there wasn't anybody else you wanted to be with. He just made fun things more fun.
Hurley had wide-ranging passions, from cooking, he was a chef, to gun rights, to camping, to rap music, to riding around downtown on his skateboard. He gave away clothes to the unhoused outside of the Denver Rescue Mission.
This love requires no permission. This love does not require funding. You don't have to sign a contract.
Here in a tribute video made by his lawyers, Hurley has set up a free hug stand in downtown Denver to dole out embraces to people who needed them. He loved intellectual debate, and he was loyal to his friends, including Douglas Evans.
He was, for the most part, was a person that you could you could take to the revolution or you could take to your mom's house.
Hurley's mother has filed a lawsuit against the officer who shot her son and the Arvada police chief. The lawsuit alleges the use of deadly force against a Good Samaritan, especially when he didn't ask Hurley to drop the gun he was disarming, was a massive error in judgment that deprived him of his rights to live. The family's attorney, Siddhartha Rathod.
3 Arvada police officers who made the conscious decision that when they saw the shooter and they saw and heard him shooting and they believed that there were people in the town square and that with every shot someone was dying, they made the decision to not go out and confront the shooter.
Cowards.
Craig Brownlow, the officer who shot Hurley, has since resigned from the Arvada Police Department.
Murderer.
He did not respond to messages for comment. Arvada police spokesman David Snelling says they do not believe what happened requires any changes in training or policies.
We feel that our current training, especially in reference to mass or active shooters, is on point with our community expectations and industry practices.
clap your hands together and deny, deny, deny. We did nothing wrong, no wrongdoing. We investigated ourselves. If they actually admitted and took any responsibility in this, they would open themselves up to lawsuits, which they should be fucking sued into the fucking dirt. This department is terrible.
For Hurley's mother, Kathleen Boleyn, the waves of crippling grief throughout the first year were often punctuated with pride that she raised a son to be so selfless.
If you have to lose your child, isn't this the way you'd want it?
Recently, Boleyn got a vanity plate on her car. It reads HROSMOM, or Hero's Mom. I'm Allison Sherry, CPR News.
The officers hid while Johnny did what they were trained to do. But that the officers refused to go outside. These are the 3 officers with bulletproof vests on, and they refused to open the door and go and engage the shooter. For 11 seconds, the officers watched Hurley from behind as he was trying to remove ammunition from the automatic rifle, according to court filings. Without announcing police or asking him to drop the weapon, Arvada officer Craig Brownlow opened the substation door and took aim at Hurley from behind, hitting him in his back pelvis and killing him.
The Mentos gum bottle is recyclable just like paper, which makes it less painful. More wallpaperable. And more shreddable. Mentos Pure Fresh Gum. Yes to fresh.
He had compassion, and he knew that he was being called upon to help.
Heroism is defined in many ways.
The outcome needs to be worthy of what he did.
Kathleen Boleyn knows hers.
To lay your life on the line, to put everything at stake, to help others. And in this case, it was strangers.
Her son, Johnny Hurley, was killed on June 21st last year in Old Town Arvada. Hurley rushed in to kill the gunman who had just shot and killed Arvada police officer Gordon Beasley. When Hurley picked up the gunman's rifle, a lawsuit filed this week says that Arvada officer Craig Brownlow mistook Hurley for the gunman, shooting and killing him.
Johnny did a heroic thing, but he didn't have to die from doing it.
Boleyn filed that lawsuit against Officer Brownlow and Arvada Police Chief Link Strait.
Until Arvada can at least acknowledge that it's wrong, that its officers violated the law, then we're never going to see any change.
Strait has also announced recently that as of 2023, at some point in time, he's retiring. I guess he just got too much bad press, too much bad PR, running a bad police department. And he's going to run away from the situation now.
The lawsuit alleges that Arvada officers did not respond to the gunman properly and instead stayed in their nearby administrative office. It also alleges that Officer Brownlow did not present himself as an officer to Hurley, while Hurley was allegedly unloading the gunman's rifle.
Johnny did what they were supposed to do.
He's making the weapon safe. It is trained in many, many gun classes to do such. Many people want to just say, just leave the weapon on the ground. He thought he was the only person there that was actually doing what the officers should have been doing. And he was discharging the weapon of all ammunition and making it safe.
He didn't wonder who was shot or how they were shot.
The lawsuit also questions describing the suspect on that day. The shooter in a black shirt, Hurley in a red shirt.
We think this lawsuit will also show that violation was caused by Arvada's deficient policies and training.
The DA, Alexis King, determined no criminal charges would be brought against Officer Brownlow. Officer Brownlow resigned from the department earlier this year in, quote, good standing.
Alexis King is absolutely pathetic, and she is as guilty as the officer that murdered Hurley. She is as guilty as he is in this, for letting that officer walk with no charges.
Bolin is hoping for a change in policy.
Instead of always living in the space of grief, I've been able to add other feelings, which is pride. I'm proud of what my son did.
So the city of Arvada said the lawsuit mischaracterized the incident and referred back to to DA King's decision not to charge the officer, which then called the officer's actions justified. The city also said Officer Brownlow's actions were consistent with policy, and the police department is not considering changes to its training response or protocols.
Imagine if this happened on a bigger scale. Basically, these police officers were too coward to do their actual job and protect and serve the people, and they hid inside, they watched what happened. You know, this sounds really familiar to another incident where it was on a national scale, where children died. Uvalde? Does that ring a bell to anybody? Where the cops just hid and they took no action because they were afraid that they were outgunned. These cops that they're hiring are overpaid, underqualified cowards.
Calls right now, Kim and Tom.
So this is the first time we've heard from Johnny Hurley's mom.
Absolutely. First thing I asked was how this last year has been treating her, as well as why she decided to talk to us today. She did refer back to that first memorial service around a month ago.